So my first major investigation was the Dr. Jeffrey R. MacDonald case. He's a former Green Bay doctor who was tried and convicted, sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences for murdering, supposedly, his wife and 2 children. Fort Bragg, February 17th, 1970. February 17th, 1970. I was asked to enter the case as a private professional investigator, and I did. Within 10 months, I obtained a signed confession. Now, we're talking about the FBI, and when I'm telling you about the FBI, I'm going to take cases, several cases that I've worked personally. So I'm a unique individual. I not only have done the research, I've been on the streets. We call it been in the trenches. So in this case, of course, I was in the trenches. And within 10 months, I obtained a signed confession from a girl named Helena Stokely, who said that Dr. MacDonald did not commit those murders. They were committed by her satanic cult group. And of course, I'd heard about Satan in the Bible, but I really didn't know that much about it. And so then I started doing my research, and I went public with my confession from Helena. And I was on radio, television, so forth, and people came to me from all parts of the country, West Coast, East Coast, telling me the same basic story, and I'm saying, well, there must be something to it. Long story short, on the MacDonald case, I developed 19 new witnesses, which included my confession from Helena Stokely. And then at that point, up to that point, this Army had conducted the investigation. It was a huge cover-up, huge drug cover-up. Helena told me this. They were flying drugs in plastic bags in the body cavities of the dead GIs in military planes coming into Fort Bragg and around the country. For documentation, I went to UCLA Library, in addition to having this statement from Helena, and I learned that there was an article by Time Magazine, January 1, 1973, that documented this. So Helena gave me this information. She said there were generals involved, police officers, Army enlisted personnel, and so on and so forth. The reason they went in and roughed up Dr. MacDonald, it got out of hand, they were on drugs. According to Helena, there were 7 members of her cult that went in and wiped out the family, was because Dr. MacDonald was moonlighting in a civilian hospital, and the GIs were going over there for treatment, and they were being turned in and being given dishonorable discharges. Anyway, I developed 19 new witnesses. I submitted a 1,200-page report to the defense team. They ended up submitting it to the Department of Justice. He'd been tried, convicted, so we had to have a hearing. Now, at that point, once I entered the case, ex-FBI chief and all that sort of thing, at that point, the FBI entered the case. And up to that point, as I say, the Army had handled the investigation. So instead of the FBI taking my work, my 1,200 pages, and building on the case from what I had done, they started interviewing my witnesses, 19 of them, and tried to get every one of them to recant. So here the taxpayers are paying the FBI agents to go out and recant a case where positive information has been developed. This man is absolutely innocent. And when I learned this, I was really very upset. And as a matter of fact, they even interviewed me. And I had a heyday with them, to be honest with you, because at the end of my interview, it was being taped, I told them about some criminal violations that had occurred, and I wanted them to investigate these other criminal violations, including the kidnapping of children by the CIA, and I'm going to go into that case in just a minute. Anyway, I was shocked, I was surprised, and then they came after me, tried to discredit me, and so on and so forth. I'm going to discuss that just a little bit later in the lecture. So, by the way, the case today, in 1997, the judge ordered DNA tests. The tests have been completed. The tests absolutely exonerate Dr. MacDonald, establish, prove, beyond any question at all, that there were other people in the house that night. For example, there was hair fiber with root found under one of the children's fingernails. Okay? It was not Dr. MacDonald's. That is sitting today. The DNA tests were ordered in 97. That today is sitting on the judge's desk. Nobody will move on it. I had a letter from Dr. MacDonald just this last week saying he doesn't know what's happening, but they're sitting on it. The whole case is a major cover-up. It involves drugs. CIA drug, Army drug operation coming in Southeast Asia. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. We had a hearing on my confessions. I was put on the witness stand. Mr. Brian Murtaugh, the prosecutor, tried to ask me questions about sex and my sex